Welcome to Literature in Pictures. This is the tail end. This is the last part of Marvel's modern cosmic saga by DNA. My first time read of all the event that started here, I think by now 3 months ago or so, when I started diving into Annihilation, then Annihilation Conquest. You can find those videos in the playlist linked from this video here. This video belongs to this playlist, and this video is really to wrap up the event, because after Annihilation Conquest we went on the road to War of Kings before we reviewed War of Kings, and really the pinnacle of the entire event to me is War of Kings. You've watched this video, hopefully. If not, go back and watch it. And spoilers ahead, before I'm gonna lift this up here. Spoilers for all of Marvel's modern cosmic saga, for War of Kings especially, and upcoming spoilers in a few minutes here for the Realm of Kings. But at the end of War of Kings, we saw the Marvel Universe has been torn asunder. The Fold, Black Bolt, killing Vulcan himself, ripped space and time apart. Obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy tried to fix that, and Adam Warlock turned into Magus. And I can't wait. I'm so excited to read Realm of Kings, the aftermath, what's gonna happen, what is going on with Magus, what is going on with the Guardians, with Nova, with all of those key players. Is Crystal taking over, putting that glue between the Kree and the Inhumans? Is Medusa fulfilling her role? Is Gladiator as the leader of the Shi'ar Empire fit to rule, and where is he gonna go? I hope all of those loose ends will be answered in here. I don't know yet. I will have to crack this one open. This is still sealed. I will tear that seal apart and gonna dive into this book. I'll see you over there in just a minute. Annihilation Classic. Annihilation. Annihilation Conquest. Road to War of Kings. War of Kings. Realm of Kings. The aftermath. Welcome to the final part of the modern Marvel Cosmic Saga by DNA. My first time read through all of those omnibuses, and we've reached the Realm of Kings, the War of Kings aftermath. They could have named this book differently. I'll get into that later, but for now let's look at the build here. Let's look at what this is all about. So we have this beautiful dust jacket of Thanos on the front, and whatever came out of the Cancerverse on the left. And then art on board here of the Annihilators. Wonderful image as well. And you can already tell how beautiful that eye is. Big eye. But let's go ahead and open this one. This one is the first printing of the Realm of Kings. It was printed by the Donley printer in China in 2016. Again, the first printing. Most stories in here are from around 2010 up until the end of the Annihilators that were printed in 2011. With regards to the mapping, they took different story arcs from the Nova series and put them where they happened chronologically. I like that, so you kind of follow the story along and don't have one series collected all at once at a time where it doesn't necessarily make sense. So I like the mapping. Let's head right in, starting off with Nova 29 through 30. Those two issues, as well as everything else in here, written by Dan Abnett and Annie Lanning, with the exception of Scott Reed writing Son of Hulk. So again, here as well a summary, a one-page summary of where everyone has been, where Nova has been, what happened to Thanos in the past, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Adam Warlock, and so on. But since you've been watching my videos, you know all of that already, because this is the final part of the 6-part series, if I'm not counting the bonus interludes. But yeah, at this point you should be aware. If not, head back, check out that playlist, and you'll find videos with regards to what happened so far. But Nova 29 through 30 here, we see the Mindless Ones breaking through the Vault. And again, the Vault was created by Black Bolt launching the Terrigen bomb on Vulcan and kind of ripping space and time apart. But here, the Mindless Ones are breaking through the Vault. The Nova Corps fights them, and Ego, the living planet where the Nova Corps has settled, frees himself of the World Mind, and the Nova Corps have to move to the ship Resolute. Here we start seeing Ego breaking free, and then again the Nova Corps has to escape, and they are settling on that ship. In Realm of Kings, we have Quasar, who is discussing a mission to enter the Vault with the Guardians of the Galaxy and Nova. And when he enters, he discovers a nasty parallel world where the Avengers have ill intentions. They're up to no good. We learn later why that is and who that big monster is as well. Spoiler. It's the Hulk, somehow. In the Realm of Kings, Inhumans, which is a 5-issue miniseries here, there is a fight while the Inhumans are figuring out how to rule. The Avengers show up, and so does Pietro. And Crystal, now being married to Ronin, questions Pietro's motives here. But rest assured, I mentioned that in one of the previous videos. I love that couple. I love Ronin with Crystal. I think their relationship is cute. I think their comedic timing is great, involuntarily great, but I can't complain. I want to see more of that. Maybe create a mini series of just the two of them. I think it would be fantastic. So we have the Avengers who are returning the stolen Terrigen crystals to the Inhumans. And kind of that's also one of the reasons why they came, if not for Pietro just wanting to see Crystal. Beautiful covers here. And again, throughout that miniseries, we also see Triton and Raven finding Black Bolt in the vault. Or do they? No, they don't. Black Bolt is still dead. That's just some echo, some life essence echo that's happening in the vault. Again, why that is, we'll learn about that later. Actually, again, I said already, there are spoilers here. No, because nothing dies in the vault. So there is no death. Death has died. Life has won in the vault. So we don't learn that until way later. But that can explain some of the things here, why we see a Black Bolt in this instance, not because in this instance it's just a force energy, cosmic energy that's creating the image like an echo. But just in general, that's how they explain lots of those things here. But in this version, Black Bolt is still fighting Vulcan. And while they're doing that, Maximus is attempting a coup. But is it really Maximus who is doing that? Or is Medusa behind that? Yes, she is behind that. And that's parts of what I don't like. And DNA have been writing Medusa the whole time consistently bad. She's kind of this jealous evil in the background, and her trying to gain the Kree's trust, because as an Inhuman, they don't trust the Inhuman royalty to lead the Kree. But she fakes all of those incidents, all of that stuff that's happening to the Kree. Most of that is originated by Medusa, thought out by Medusa, and then Maximus is helping her in an attempt to then play the good guys who are freeing the Kree of those horrible things that are happening, yet having created them themselves in the first place. And yeah, we get to the point where we realize that Medusa deceived the people to establish the Inhuman rule and her own as the queen of the Kree. Imperial Guard, that's where we see we're leaving the Kree side behind and we're heading into what the Shi'ar are have been up to, and what Gladiator has been doing on that side. In Imperial Guard, again, another 5-issue mini-series, Gladiator sends his Imperial Guard along with the Starjammers into the Fold, where they encounter those weird creatures. And again, no one knows where they come from, what they are, and how to defeat them. Can they be defeated? We're inside of one of those giant creatures. This one is dead. And yes, that crew barely escaped. But when they do, and they do escape, they do find Quasar in the Fold. We have the Raptors interfering. The Raptor called Talon hitchhiked into the Fold as well with them. They are attacked by the Dark X-Men until Gladiator rescues them all. There he is. The Gladiator. Well, he's supposed to lead the Shi'ar. He's not supposed to be a warrior and fight, but he doesn't care. He uses his strength to help his people. Or the entire universe, I should say. We have Talon offering 2 more crystals to make more Raptors. Mentor and Plutonia volunteer. And we got 2 new Raptors that don't show up afterwards. So I don't know where they are showing up in the future. But that's kind of how those 2 disappear. And they're Raptors now. Irrevertibly. And are gone from the story. Get to a stage here where Chot shoots the symbiote into the Fold monster to defeat it. And it's interesting because it'll show up, the symbiote does. The symbiote that was previously introduced called Zeke, but Zeke's now merging with that thing. And we don't hear of it for a while, but it'll come back, other than the Raptors. It'll become part of the story later on. Throughout the pages of Son of Hulk, which is collected at this point, 4-issue miniseries, we have Hiro Kala, son of Hulk, brother of Scar, that we had seen in a different omnibus here previously, in a story where he is pulled out of his path in the microverse. That's him, son of Hulk, Hiro Kala, and he's defeated by Arcturus. The story overall is very confusing, I gotta say. That's probably my least favorite part of this omnibus, my least favorite story arc of this omnibus. Also doesn't play too much of a role later on. But yeah, we get that story here. Before we reach Nova 31 through 35. So that's where the other remaining issues of Nova are collected at this point, where Richard Rider is confronting Chris. Black Hawk is now a wanted fugitive after the events of War of Kings, where apparently he shot Lilandra, but he didn't. We know that. Richard doesn't know that. The rest of the universe doesn't know that. And so Richard confronts him, asks him, "What's up? What did you do?" And of course, Chris is like, "It wasn't me. You should know that. You should know better. So they talk it out, fight it out. The story goes from there. But they're being sucked into this imaginary world by the things. So it's like a side quest here, because Richard and Chris are now not in the fold, not in their universe, but in a separate parallel world. And Richard and Chris are pulled into this timeless space by the things, a construct. There they meet an earlier version of Reed Richards and other characters here that they just have to play it by the ear and figure out what's happening, how to escape. We have Darkhawk here, Chris, who scans this planet, this construct, and figures this isn't Earth, this isn't Egypt, we're somewhere else. And of course, Richard, of course, I say of course, but surprisingly, Richard finds Namorita, who's also pulled in here for reasons. And so he's reunited with a different version that doesn't belong in his universe, but because love is love, she's the one he holds onto the most. So we now have Black Bolt, Namorita, and other versions. A force pulled everyone but Black Hawk into this construct. Black Hawk kind of got pulled in by proximity, by being close to Nova, to Richard. And it makes them live through multiple versions of what ifs. So what if Black Bolt hadn't died? What if Reed Richard had not gone to space and lived a normal life? What if she didn't die? So that's kind of just the mind trick by the things. And now they awake. They awake from the things' spell. Turns out the things has called a younger version of himself who turned on him at this point. And they are fighting back together. So also more of a side quest here, where the younger version of the things thinks that it can defeat the older things. Too many tongue twisters in this one. So while they're battling, we get a nice backflash here. Nice backflash scene to his high school, where we first met Richard. But in the end, the old things ends up with both cast stones and wins that battle. But of course, they cannot leave the things with both stones. That'd be crazy. And so they have to get them back. Richard uses a Stargate to pull the things into reality where two cast stones cannot exist. And that's basically how they win that fight. Get pulled back into reality. Richard goes back to his universe. Black Bolt goes back to his universe. But of course, Richard Rider keeps Namorita with him. When everyone else is returning to their timelines, Richard takes a risk and brings his dead girlfriend with him. Again, also of no consequence later, really. But yeah, nice story. I like those stories in here. And again, different than House of M, they're not contradicting each other. It's just, they might be inconsequential later, but hey, it's a fun story. That's why we're reading those books, right? Another reason why we're reading those books are crossovers, and here we get one. Steve Rogers in this little few pages here that explain how Richard Rider joins the Avengers. Steve Rogers asking Richard to join the Avengers, and everyone's being happy. Getting the last part of Nova, Nova 36, the last issue here of Nova being collected at this point, where Nova and Darkhawk visit Earth. They find a fake Quasar version from the vault, while the real Vandal, or the real Quasar, has returned from the vault and is with the Shi'ar. So he cannot be on Earth and with the Shi'ar at the same time. That's how they find out and are kind of a step ahead of the fake one. They realize here that they're all infected. So the Dark Quasar escapes, but Nova follows him. Which leads us to the Guardians of the Galaxy at this point. Issue 20 through 25 is collected in here. Heather mourns the death of Phyla, her girlfriend. Invaders from the vault make it to nowhere. Heather becomes a victim of the symbiote. Remember the symbiote that was shot into that ugly monster early on? Yes, Zeke is back, and we have the symbiote attacking Heather, which makes her pregnant. So they're all a little bit awkward about this, but yeah, she's absorbing the symbiote. The only way to save her life, that thing is in her belly now. Can't be fun. She uses all her energy, all her strength to keep that thing where it is until the Universal Church of Truth kidnaps Heather and the symbiote inside her. The Guardians and the Luminals free her and throw the symbiote back into the fold. And everyone is happy? Everyone's happy. I think everyone's happy. Until we get to the reveal that Magus is behind the Universal Church of Truth, keeping the dead Guardians in stasis. He faked his death and came back stronger. And again, everyone that we assumed dead here at the end of War of Kings is still alive, kept alive by Magus. Oof. Dramatic turn of events. So Phyla now is able to warn Heather and free the other Guardians. I mean, I kind of skipped a lot here, but yeah, in the end, she frees them. And then Maelstrom, we get Maelstrom, who makes Phyla free Thanos. He's tricking her, and then she thinks this is actually Adam Warlock, and she brings Adam Warlock back, but it isn't. It's Thanos, and by being in this cocon for too long, he kind of went crazy and is now just unleashing his power randomly, killing Phyla. So Heather and Phyla can't really be alive at the same time. Those poor souls. In issue 25, we have the moment where the Guardians of the Galaxy reunite. But that reunification doesn't last long. They're all happy-ish, but Thanos attacks, so they can't really celebrate for too long because this guy is back as well, as we've learned. And Heather obviously not happy about Phyla now being dead. They're all trying what they can to stop Thanos, but Death rejects him, so they can't really kill him. And so he has become immortal. Drax tries again, and yeah, Thanos is just as strong. Peter uses the cosmic cube to trap Thanos though, because he needs him. He needs him for a plan that Peter drew up, which is his way of trying to defeat or close the fold, defeat the Cancerverse that's behind it, and move on. Which gets us to the big event here, the Thanos Imperative. Ignition. So we have Ignition, we have a mini-series, and we have Destruction. So overall, those are like 8 issues combined, which makes up actually the highlight. It seems to be the highlight, the event that all the events led up to. And I know we're calling this Realm of Kings, but it could have been called Thanos Imperative, which would be a cooler name, but maybe less people would have bought it because they read War of Kings, and now it's the aftermath, the Realm of Kings. I would have probably called this Thanos Imperative, but whatever. We're getting to what, to me, is the main event here, where Thanos hates being back, he hates being alive, and he would have preferred to stay dead. And while the Guardians of the Galaxy discuss whether they should kill Thanos again, which he approves, Nova follows fake Quasar, while real Quasar comes to help. Medusa and the Inhumans are on their way as well. And it's a trap. Adam Magus has been waiting, has been setting a trap for them. Magus, knowing what he's doing here, pulling in some planets with believers and using their energy, making those explode. Thanos still raging. And that's the end of Ignition, where we head into the 6-issue series, Thanos Imperative. This feels like, again, as I mentioned, like the main event. The book should have been called like that. But the events in here, more important than the name. Thanos escapes, but Rocket kind of talks him into submission here. Lord Marvel from the universe on the other side of the fault, again, we're calling this Cancerverse, he reveals that no one dies in that Cancerverse. No one can die because death itself is dead. And Lord Marvel leading life, winning for the side of life. And to him, the fact that people can die in this universe, in our universe, is kind of new to him. But while they're fighting, we have Thanos that fights in the Cancerverse and Galactus on the other side, protecting the opening to the fault. Yay, Galactus is back. Unfortunately, just a short cameo. I would have loved to see more of him, but he's helping. He's somewhere, you know. That's how the Silver Surfer is around. We get the Silver Surfer back. That's worth it. And relevant in this case, because the Silver Surfer being back will be relevant for the end of this book, which is also great, but not to spoil anything for now. Those spoilers are coming in a minute. I just love the fight. I love galactic events at this stage here. Just beautiful images as well. Because why is Silver Surfer important? Again, we didn't have to wait too long for those spoilers. Silver Surfer is part of this new team that Nova is putting together. He puts together a strike team to free Namorita. Well, again, the best reason is love. Also in this one, Nova just wants to have his girlfriend back, who is an anomaly and therefore been captured by Lord Marvel from the Cancerverse. But he basically gets all the heavy hitters here to get his girlfriend back. We have Quasar, Beta Ray Bill, the Gladiator, Nova himself, the Surfer and Ronin, and all of them together, Alpha Plus level. Well, they're discussing later. That's where the sense of humor comes in. They're discussing amongst themselves later who's actually Alpha and who's Alpha Plus, but that's more of a comic relief at that point. But even though they need him, we get to the stage where Drax cannot resist his urge. Even though they need Thanos, or that's what Peter says, they need Thanos, Drax still kills him. What the heck? You just cost us the weapon that we needed to defeat life in the Cancer Wars and bring death back. Not to defeat life, but bring death back to life in the universe, in the Cancerverse that doesn't have a death. But Drax kills him. I guess at this point I already knew, like, okay, you die in a universe where there's no death. He's gonna come back. But first we get the strike team that strikes. That's what the strike team does. And the debate, who's the strongest here? I mean, who do you think who's the strongest? Leave a comment in the comments down below. Tell me, who's the strongest? I don't know. If you ask me, I would say the Surfer, but we see him in a later story getting cut by, like, not that strong of an opponent. Gladiator, I think, just because he's been with us throughout this series so much and nothing could defeat him. He comes back pretty much immortal at this point. Oh, so it's between those two. I'd love to see a fight between those two and see who comes out victorious. And as projected, we see Death rejecting Thanos. And he lives again. Then he kills Drax. Boom! Drax is gone. Sorry. But you killed him first. Even though I love you, Drax. But kind of deserved it here. And we have Wanda from the Cancerverse, who switches sides to help out Vision. Oh, isn't that cute? So whatever story we get, and even if Wanda is bad, she switches and turns good. And we see the strike team in parallel now knowing what Lord Marvel wants. He is looking for Thanos because he's the avatar of death. And again, Lord Marvel wants to kill death because he's the avatar of light. So Lord Marvel is looking for this purple guy. So Marvel and Thanos fight. But what is this? Thanos gives himself up? Well, who saw that coming? Thanos wanting to die? It's like, kill me, finally. I want to be with death. I love death. So they all feel betrayed because, again, Thanos was their champion. But Thanos is like, no, dude. Like, I kept telling you, I want to die. I want to be with death. Please kill me. Not gonna happen, dude. Because what happens? What happens when Thanos is actually killed? Well, that is not the logic this universe follows, right? Because if someone is killed, that means death is back. Woo, they mind tricked us here completely. Thanos dying brought death back, and death reappears and kills Lord Marvel. Wow, who thought that Thanos is the smartest guy in this entire book? I love it. I love those twists. I don't know. Those twists were actually, they made sense. I love twists when they make sense. When Thanos is like, well, you killed me, therefore I'm dead, therefore death is back. And yeah, back together. She's still giving him the cold shoulder though, but they can figure that out. Star-Lord and Nova keep Thanos busy in the dying universe and then seal the vault. It's like, what? He just found death again? He's going crazy because she still rejects him. And then Peter and Richard sacrifice themselves to kill Thanos, trapping him in the collapsing Cancerverse that now is dying, or the vault is being closed. And so, sacrifice here, they get a statue. But yeah, Richard and Peter die in this. And we get the aftermath of the Thanos Imperative here-ish. Where we are seeing Blastar. It's like, yeah, where had Blastar been? Like, they set up Blastar in the previous Omnibus so much, and here he didn't play too much of a role, but in here, he's coming. Blastar attacking the Kree, but Cosmo anticipated it, and he formed a team already. The Annihilators. Well, wasn't it Peter's team? But I guess he admits it. It's like, it wasn't my idea. Cosmo got the Annihilators together. At this point, they weren't named like that, but they will be. Because then we have a 4-issue miniseries from 2011 after the Vault had closed, Annihilators 1 through 4, where we have the original team of the Annihilators. And then this Space Knight shows up, called Icon, and she wants to take over the lead. She wants to lead this team of overpowered individuals because they're totally socially incompetent. And so Icon thought she has a role in this team to lead the Surfer, Gladiator, Battery Bill, Ronin, and Quasar. As we know, Nova died, so one man down, another woman up. And yeah, we have the Space Knight here who leads them to her homeworld, ties this all nicely back together to Rom and the Space Knights, because now they're fighting on Galador. The Dire Wraith are let loose on Galador, and Brandy Clark, yes, that Brandy Clark, is involved in the treachery. Great nod to Rom with regards to that storyline here in the pages of the Annihilators. The Dire Wraith Queen is back, and they have to fight her as well. And the Annihilators venture to Limbo, where the Wraith world was put. They face Immortus, and it is revealed that it's all a plan set in motion by the Skrulls. Freaking Skrulls. To rebuild their empire. It's like, okay, we're coming full circle. The Cosmic Saga in Annihilation started with the Skrulls, and now we're getting the Skrulls here again, where the Dire Wraith are like a subversion of the Skrulls. We get a brief history of the Skrulls here from Galactus devouring their homeworld in the pages of the Fantastic Four until now, and continue with the story. The Surfer, Quasar, and Ronin bind two suns together and save both Galador and the Wraith world, because the Wraith world pulls its energy from the dark sun and Galador from this sun. And so they're basically merged together, and the planets are in opposition to each other, and so everyone is happy. Problem solved. We're making peace with the Wraith now. That's the end of Annihilators, but hold on. There were backup stories. Where are the backup stories? Whoop! Annihilators 1. We see the backup stories here. So the adventures of Rocket Raccoon and Groot are being collected in here. B stories, backup stories, those are collected here, centered around Rocket and Groot. Rocket working as an employee in the mailroom until he gets attacked by this clown, and he follows up why this clown was sent to kill him. And so he sets out to look for Groot. Groot, who we learn just pretended to be the king of Planet X. He actually isn't that, and he is actually charged for treason and punished to stay on this island. Oh, Groot. And then with the help of some rodents here and some fungi, Rocket rescues Groot, who tells him that the clown came from Rocket's homeworld, Half-World. We remember Half-World, right? Like that was part of the Annihilation Classic, our first video. We're coming full circle because that story was collected in here. Yep, we got the walrus and all those characters that will show up in this story. In here, the clowns, that's Half-World. And I love that that's collected in here. Again, if you want to know more about this story, go back and watch the first video that was published on this playlist. And so Rocket travels back to his homeworld, where he learns about his past, because Rocket forgot all about it, kind of brainwashed himself out of those memories. But he forcefully learns about them here. He learns about those insane inmates who tried to escape, and this one guy who's leading them. But they push them back, they win the fight, and it's all good. Rocket wins. They're being put in this fake world here, but again, nice story, nice nod to the origin story here of Rocket, and Groot is helping him. And we're getting to the last story arc being collected in here, Annihilators Earthfall. So it's the second series, 4 issues of the Annihilators that was originally published 2011 through 2012. Without the Silver Surfer now, the team faces remnants of the church, but it has to escape to Earth. And then on Earth, they are going through their own adventure, because what we see is the Avengers attacking them, because they don't know what's going on. And until they realize that Magus has been reborn on Earth, it's a little bit too late. And he's already there, and he spreads himself throughout the population, 30% of the population in the United States. And all of those good people here are now Maguses. That's the plural of Magus. Ronan calls his sentries as a failsafe, because what happens if they can't defeat Magus? Well, then they would have to annihilate North America. But in the end, everything is well, because I don't want to drag out the story here more than it needs to be, but the Annihilators defeat Magus and trap him on Nowhere, where he will not be found. It's what they believe. And so we end Earthfall. One last story is collected in here. Rocket and Groot going on their adventure, or being put into an adventure, a TV show, an adventure in and of itself. It is the last adventure. Groot and Rocket discover that they are part of a TV show. And that's where this omnibus ends-ish, because we get Thanos' source book, where we get kind of the history of Thanos, we get the history of the Cosmic Saga, and some more information here. Part of the extras, I would call it. We get some other extras here in the back. Love this Scotty Young cover. And some more covers here. Some sketches. Oh, lovely. But that was that. And now that I am done with the Cosmic Saga, the Marvel Cosmic Saga by DNA, I don't know what to read after this. So I asked the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, dude, what do I read after Realm of Kings? This is what he said.
What to read after War of the Kings Aftermath, Realm of the Kings? Oh, for the love of God and everything that's holy, don't read Guardians of the Galaxy by Brian Michael Bendis. Take a break. Take a break.
Thank you, Uncanny Omar. I will try. I will try to take a break. But if you have watched this series so far, you know there might be something coming next week. But before we get there, I want to share my final thoughts on Realm of Kings, the aftermath to War of Kings. I think overall this could be a standalone omnibus. Like, there was hardly any reason to call this the aftermath, because we start off, yes, you need some previous knowledge about how the vault was created, but really in any of the other omnibuses you needed that too. And just with an introduction page that we are actually getting in here, so we do have this nice summary in the beginning. It's technically enough, so you can just start reading here and then read the story about how the Cancerverse emerged from the fold and Lord Marvel tried to strengthen his forces, come into our universe and kill death here, because that's what he accomplished in his universe. But they call it the aftermath, I guess, to piggyback on the success of War of Kings. Regardless, I think it turned out into its own great, fantastic story, into the Thanos imperative, and with the Annihilators specifically. I think there are great hints and Easter eggs. So not only Easter eggs, it's like a continuation of ROM in a way. Obviously, Icon, the Space Knight, leading the Annihilators or assisting them. She liked to lead them, but she's assisting them and nudging them to help her out on her homeworld. But I think that's all a great standalone in itself. Like, I know you won't and you haven't if you've been watching this, but this could be read by itself without War of Kings, without the Road to War of Kings. That technically that's the one that isn't the only standalone. Like, I think for the Road to War of Kings, it made sense to name it like that, to call it like that, because it's kind of the bridge between Annihilation Conquest and War of Kings. But this one here could be called the Thanos Imperative. Anyways, I'm done with the Cosmic Saga, the modern Marvel Cosmic Saga, Marvel's modern Cosmic Saga by DNA, however you want to call it. And I'm still wrapping my head around certain things. Obviously, an event this big, from Annihilation to Annihilation Conquest to the Road to War of Kings, and Realm of Kings, can't be summarized in a few sentences, and I won't try. Again, if you want to dive deep into this and you haven't already, go back, start at video number 1 in this playlist, and you'll get the full scope that I've been trying to outline here for the past 3 months or so. What is there left for me to say other than thank you? Thank you so much for watching. If you've stuck around so long and you're still watching this part here, my deepest gratitude, my respect, my condolences? No, I don't know. But I want to thank you. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. It's been a long, long journey. Because to be completely honest here, and again, if you've made it this far, you absolutely deserve full honesty. Obviously, I didn't read one omnibus per week and recorded the video and edited all of that stuff. The editing process is a whole monster beast in and of itself. But this whole project took about a year. So I know it looks like the videos are being published on a weekly basis, but I think the entire project took about a year, if not longer, start to finish. And I haven't been able to just sit down and read an omnibus per week. Yes, some of those omnibuses I read within 3-4 days, but then I took 1 or 2 month break before I read the next one. And with that, I kept those videos in the backload until everything was completed, edited, and then pushed out here over the last 3 months or so, just to destroy some of your illusions of what this project's time span was actually like. But it was a ton of fun. I don't think it would have been fun if I actually did that within 2-3 months. Over the course of 1 year, obviously I did other things. It's not my job, my work. I don't make money off of videos here. Look at my subscriber count. So again, with that in mind, even more of a big thank you for sticking around. Thank you so much. If you've watched this series, you know this can't be the end, and this won't be the end. So look forward to next week's, should I call it interlude? It shouldn't be an interlude. It's more of an epilogue. So let's call it epilogue. I'll see you next week for an epilogue. Thank you so much for watching. This was Literature in Pictures. Until next week. And if you need something to do for the next week until that video comes out, go back to the playlist and watch those other 10 videos. Thank you. Bye.